What's that? Football Manager saves in trouble? I'm on the way. Zealand. First one from Rimstar1412 managing Sampdoria. We've had the worst start I've ever had in an FM save. We haven't won a league game and have only picked up a win and a draw in our Europa League phase against Maccabi Haifa and Hoffenheim. Our goalkeeper scored in the 94th minute, by the way. I mean, when it rains, it pours. Regardless of scraping by in both those games, I'm pulling my hair out trying to figure out what's wrong with this team. I believe I've strengthened the team in the right areas and the team cohesion is still very good, but we just can't win regardless of how I tweak the tactic. Save me from my nightmare. Yeah, it ain't good. Let's look at where you've come from. So first year of the save, you get back into Serie A where you'd been relegated the year before going into the actual game. You finish 15th, and then you have a magical run and finish 6th. But now this has happened, and you're questioning your entire life. The first thing I want to look at is whether you're actually being dominated that much or whether you're just getting a little unlucky. We can see on the schedule you've already played AC Milan, Inter, and Juventus. Those are 3 of the tougher games you're going to have all year. And while you should have more than 0 points according to your XG, your team is certainly nowhere near the level that it was at to qualify for the Europa League last season. But you already knew that. The first obvious issue would be dynamics, but as you've taken time to point out, dynamics are not an issue for you. The next obvious culprit would be the quality of your team, but considering you managed to qualify for the Europa League last season, it's certainly not at the level where it would be inevitable that you're going to get relegated again. So we head to tactics, and this is where I found something. This is not your fault because the instructions are incredibly confusing, but you have a fundamental misunderstanding when it comes to your defense. You're playing a narrow tactic. There's nothing wrong with this. When you look at the field coverage, it's actually pretty good, and these types of tactics can be particularly useful when it comes to overwhelming opposition center backs or maintaining possession because it's impossible to press a 4-man midfield. While I'm not a particular fan of whipped crosses or be more disciplined as you have set up here, there's nothing inherently wrong with those. It's limiting the creativity and quality of your players, but you can still win with those on. Now, the big thing is in out of possession and the fundamental misunderstanding of what trap outside and trap inside mean. See, trap outside means that your players are going to attempt to force the opposition to the outside, where you have, and this is true, nobody. This is your most recent match against Frosinone. Let's watch how your team reacts to a switch of play. The ball comes across, your right-sided striker presses over to their right center back, it goes to the other center back, and you're going to see your team completely concede the outside part of the pitch. Messigura here just concedes the outside part of the pitch because that's what he's been told to do, and there's a ton of space for the other team to be able to advance the ball down the side because you just don't have anybody there naturally. You have 4 midfielders. Nobody's going to come through the middle of your tactic no matter what you do. But on that pass back, you see you're shading them outside again. The wing is open, that's where they're able to advance the ball, and they're able to get an obvious goal-scoring chance. Obvious is a strong word, it's still a good shot, but you get the idea. Your team is already narrow, and you're just making them narrower. Here's the opening match of the season against AC Milan for you. Watch when the ball goes to Reinders. Look at how much space is available to Dedic. Now that is a natural part of your formation, the fact that you're closing down quickly, but the reaction to Dedic is to concede the outside, to try and force them into that outside area where you're just going to put your fullbacks in particular in terrible positions to try and deal with that. If anything, you should be trying to get on the outside of players and drive them towards your incredibly crowded midfield. If you notice that your wings are being attacked really aggressively, that's something I'd recommend doing. But now, having watched every goal you've conceded over the course of the year so far, you have another problem. You either need to or get off the pod. So you have step up more on your defensive line, a higher press, and a standard back line. The issue with the higher press and the standard back line is that you are spreading your team out more and you have more closing down and prevent short goalkeeper distribution. So the front part of your team is going to be flying forward to try and press. And you're curiously leaving a little more space in the middle third of the field for the opposition to operate while also having step up more, which as you read is designed to compact the midfield space. It keeps your players from retreating once the press is broken. You've given up a lot of balls over the top once your initial press has been broken. So you either need to commit to the bit more and step up more and play higher, or just bring your back line up higher and take off, step up more, or you need to chill a bit, bring down your line of engagement, take this off, and take off, step up more. But right now you're caught between 2 minds defensively, and it's absolutely killing you. You're giving up the wings, and you're also giving them a clear opportunity to have time and space space to play a ball in behind, often these two things combine. A player in the outside third of the pitch is playing a ball through or over the top your back line because they're trying to hold high. But they're also just standard. And if your team is stepping higher, don't regroup. That's almost entirely contradictory. You want to counter press or do nothing, but you definitely don't want to regroup, because then you're regrouping to a higher line and continuing to invite even more pressure onto yourself. The quality of your players is capable of a mid-table finish, and things will start to correct themselves as long as you keep the atmosphere and team cohesion up. Make those changes, your defense will be a lot better, you'll play a better game. Next! This is from Striker QT. Hi Z, my Nordjylland save is off to a decent start, but I feel like I'm at a risk of stagnating. I don't really know how to deal with that. My first concern is that I'm holding on to some of the longer tenured players for too long, such as Muinta, Diomande, and Kramashi. And then I have some exciting young talents coming in behind, Jebrin, Fontana, and Lerneso. And while I'm getting them some minutes, I don't know if it's enough. Also, my attacking performance in the league went down from last season. It could be a tactical thing, or it could be players underperforming, but it's concerning to me how much the scoring went down. I'm not sure what to do with my current squad given these issues, as I know it needs improvement to compete in Europe, but I'm not sure where and how. This one will probably take me like 30 seconds. Wait, this Jebber guy has 1 cap in 4 goals for Ghana? Hello? That's insane. Okay, you're Nordjylland, you just lost to Real Madrid 3-1, but if you look at the top teams in the world, and you look at their talent, and you look at yours, there's gonna be a significant gap. You have better cohesion, you have better rest and rotation, so you're able to compete with these teams, but you are right in thinking that players like particularly Kramashi and even Sverre Halseth Nippon aren't necessarily the starting pieces that are going to win you the Champions League. This is a very unique and specific situation a lot of people find themselves in when they get good at Football Manager but don't know how to win the Champions League out of a league like this. You need to keep signing wonder kids. You need to scout everywhere all the time for wonder kids. There needs to be a wall of 5 potential players on this team, because not all of them will work out. It's more variable than ever this year, and you need to bring a lot of those guys in. When you get a big transfer offer for one of your players, take it. You'll still win the league, and you'll give opportunities to develop to somebody else. But spending $20 million and only giving somebody 2 appearances is not necessarily the development that you're looking for here. If you're investing $20 million in a player, that guy needs to be playing. And this guy definitely has a chance to be a world-class level attacking midfielder, so let's get him on the field. You're not competing with the Norwegian league anymore. You're competing with Real Madrid, and the only way to compete with them is to find the wonder kids before they do and develop those guys, and then sell them and do it again so that you have such a strong financial backbone you can compete, which you have clearly already done. You're close. It's 2027, for crying out loud. You're already losing to Real Madrid 3-1 in the round of 16 of the Champions League. You'd probably get there without me even saying anything. You're just spooking yourself. Go sign a few more wonder kids, cycle a few more guys out, you'll be fine. Like a therapist sometimes. Next is from Juco Johnny at Atletico de Madrid. Boss. I bought an 80 million euro striker in January, and he is not scoring. 11 matches, 8 starts, 0 goals, 1 assist. Is it the formation, the roles around him, his role, team instructions? Our staff is top-notch, and he's a model citizen, so I don't feel like it's a training thing. Specific issue. Let's go. So who's the lucky guy? Is it Gonzalo Ramos? It is. I love Gonzalo Ramos. I've had this guy in a save before. He's very good. The most important thing when it comes to striker finishing is that they have a finishing trait, and he has places shots, so that's good. While his composure is a little low for places shots, he has the technique and the finishing to make that perfectly acceptable. He likes big matches, he has decent consistency, and as you've already discussed, his mentality is fantastic. So this likely lies with form and tactic. If you want to figure out how effective your tactic is at getting a player with this kind of talent in goal-scoring positions, we go to expected attacking output in the data hub, and we see that Gonzalo Ramos is only generating 0.2 non-penalty XG per 90. So it's not necessarily his fault that he's not scoring, he's not getting in goal-scoring positions in the first place. He's creating less non-penalty XG per 90 than Rodrigo de Paul, Thiago Almada, Memphis Depay, and Alvaro Morata from your team alone. And it's not like you haven't been successful in those 8 matches, so the tactic is working, but you're not getting the most out of him. You already knew that, I'm just explaining it to everybody else. And you're working him as a pressing forward on attack. This is something Gonzalo Ramos is pretty good at, he has the underlying mental attributes to make himself a good pressing forward, but it's obviously not getting him in the goal scoring positions, and you probably didn't want to spend $86 million on a guy to play pressing forward. So the two thoughts: either you make him an advanced forward or a complete forward so he can use that intelligence to attack the goal more and not just focus on trying to close down the opposition when they're in possession. Or you can lean into his strengths as a facilitator and have him as a deep lying forward, in which case you want to take at least one, but probably both of these guys and put them on attack. Then Felix de Paul and Almada, who are getting into good goal scoring positions, are able to run beyond Gonzalo Ramos when he takes a touch and brings the ball short to lay it off. That's something he can do. He has great teamwork, off the ball movement, and passing. But personally, I'd leave your tactic as is and then just flick him on to advance forward. This is going to force him to use that great finishing and off the ball movement to put pressure on the opposition team and find his way towards the goal. I would then turn on pass into space and up your passing directness by 1. This should not completely torpedo your ability to possess the ball, which is something you're clearly trying to emphasize, but it will give Gonzalo Ramos a few more things that will feed into his strength. The ball can travel a little farther in the air, and you can play the ball into space that Gonzalo Ramos, with his incredible movement and mentality, is able to chase down. You can always go into his player instructions and tell him to tackle harder if you're worried that not having a pressing forward is going to make you a bit weaker up top. And the last bit, normally when I see something like focus play down the middle, that does bother me, but you have a very talented passing middle part of the field, and I can see why your two wingers are getting a good amount of non-penalty XG per 90, because the ball comes up the middle of the field and then they make runs. So maybe it's a good idea to put Rodrigo de Paul in an attacking mentality so that they can make those runs more often in support of Gonzalo Ramos once João Felix and Koke get themselves on the ball with a chance to make a play. That has nothing to do with your original question. Hopefully that helps Gonzalo Ramos actually put a ball in the back of the net, because you spent a lot of money on it. Next, only Athmos with Roma. Hello, Zealand. I decided my FM24 save would be Roma, hoping to soon try and become one of the European powerhouses. After the first season, I finished in the top 6 and got Europa League, but I felt I had to move on from some older players, Lukaku, Sanchez, players that were loaned in leaving. I decided to try and buy young and fiddled with my tactic, but I seemed to struggle to rebuild my team at the same level. I sold some players to create funds because I originally only had $3 million in transfer budget. I've been struggling this season, and I'm not sure what isn't clicking. Did I buy players that weren't good enough? Is my tactic failing? My strikers don't seem to score at all. A little help would really be appreciated. The lack of striker goal scoring we just talked about for a while. Hopefully some of that helps. So your team is in 11th early in the season. Everybody knows I love a good XG table just to give me an idea about whether you're getting screwed. So you aren't having a good year. You're not getting unlucky either. You're supposed to be 9th in this table, but you're basically bang on with what you're supposed to be allowing and scoring. So a rather bold move. You tried to rebuild your team. You sold Dybala. You sold Leandro Paredes. These are good players. These are not easy guys to replace. And it's not like you got crazy money either. You got 9 and 12 million. You sold Andrea Bellotti, who really, he's an animal. You loaned out Viña, which is wild. I actually really like Viña. Your left back if you loaned out Viña. If you're selling old dudes, you would have sold Spinazzola and not loaned out Viña. I would have kept Viña around. I'm losing track of the main point here, but Viña's your second best left back. The real question is, who did you bring in? Now, the signing of Luka Brvancic is really good, but my issue with the other guys you signed is you just signed a bunch of other dudes. I mean, bringing in like Anthony Martial on a free, it's not a bad signing. He has talent, but it's not like you're replacing the older players that you tried to move out with younger players that are going to kind of grow together and bring your team to the next level. You're just trying to keep your team at the same level by swapping out guys that are 31 for guys that are 28. Signing Vrbancic was good. Signing Sergio Gomez for free was a very good pickup. I'm not making you feel like all of your signings were bad moves, or at least I'm trying not to make you feel that way. But I don't really understand the transfer strategy. It's like, okay, we signed Adamo Nagalo, he's 22, but your scouts agree that, he doesn't have more room to grow, and he doesn't necessarily love big matches, and he's presumably coming in to replace Evan Ndicka, who did like big matches and is objectively a better player. Like, Indika might have forced his way out. That might be a bad example, but there's a couple of examples like that. Like, Jalair does not have that 5-star potential. He's coming in to replace Karsdorp, who he's very marginally better than. And you lost money on the swap. You had to spend $4 more million on Jalair than you got for selling Rick Karsdorp, he's only 29 and he has 18 natural fitness. It's not like this guy was going to start getting worse all of a sudden. You know, if the point of refreshing your squad is to try and improve, I don't think you necessarily did that. You made a few smart signings, but a lot of the like-for-like changes just don't seem to improve the team a lot. You have a pretty simple tactic overall. I think attacking is definitely stupid. You're probably leaving yourself more exposed than you need to. Trap outside doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And if you are struggling with your players getting pulled out of position, I find that lowering your trigger press, particularly when you're decided that you want to play in a mid block, will help you be more responsible that way. As for this, the double overlap does slow your team down, because if you actually read this, they will hold on to the ball and look for the overlapping player. So your wingbacks are going to overlap whether you have that on or not. It's just whether you want your wing players to look for it as part of the buildup. I feel like the way you've set your team up, you want to be able to play fast with this front three, and then you've got your two wingbacks in support. And so turning those overlaps off will help you play with a bit more speed. I have no problem with the sunken midfield if you want both of your wingbacks to be a key part of your attack, particularly Gomez. He's great for that. My issue is I don't think the lack of aggression you have from your midfield suits the talent in your team. First of all, Amadou Haidara should be your ball-winning midfielder. Bove can rotate with Sanchez as a box-to-box player. Husam Aouar is a tremendous ball-playing player, so is Pellegrini. Verbancic is a great center mid on attack that you now have on your bench. You have really high-quality midfielders that I feel like you're putting in a backseat role so that Jalair guy can, you know, missile down the wing again. Despite the lateral transfer moves that you've made, you're not scoring because you're putting the emphasis on the wrong players. Luka Jovic is not near the best player on your team. Near is Rooney Bargi, as much as I love Rooney Bargi. Put Jalair on defend, try an advanced playmaker on support and a center mid on attack, or an advanced playmaker on attack next to a box-to-box midfielder. Let your best players help produce your goals. What's next? Albert Schilgen managing Jönköpings Södra. In my quest to get the team out of debt and into the top 3 positions for the highest division of the Swedish league, I've accidentally done so I don't have enough Swedish players, so I can't actually field a bench. Yikes! My team's reputation is starting to get up a bit, but the finances don't allow me to offer enough salary, so I can't recruit any players that have high level that are in any of the top Swedish teams or foreign B reserve teams. My youth training facility and general training facility is incredibly bad, and because of the financial situation, my board won't let me upgrade, so I can't rely on homegrown talent, and I need to get a top 3 finish to be able to get out of the red. I think I might have killed my save. No, you haven't. We will save you. So let's see how bad it is. Let's look at there's no registration. So the first thing you should always do is look at the competition rules for who can play. Ah, there you go. The match squad must have at least 9 players trained by a club in Sweden. You have an entire first team of players who are not trained in Sweden. That's a minor oversight, dude. That is a minor oversight. First observation is you've got 2 guys that are at least competent that are out on loan right now, that when you get to the summer transfer window, you should just be able to recall so you can at least help fill up your bench. So see what you've done? You've just stacked 4 Swedish dudes on your bench, but you have not killed your save. You're just gonna need to survive this year, and you're gonna need to sell some people. I mean, hell, you're even loaning in guys that aren't Swedish. Like, this guy's good, but you didn't see this train coming at all, did you? Okay, so when is your transfer window? July 20th? It's May 16th. So you're gonna have to ride this out for 2 months. Obviously, there's nothing you can do about this until July. The good news is there's a break in the season. You have 3 matches until the transfer window opens. You need to be ready. That starts with the scouting. You need to be looking for loan players and free players that meet your requirement. I'll show you how. You create a recruitment focus. You want literally any position. You'll make your tactic work if you can find good players. People that are at least 3 stars, loan, and then in further details, you want trained in Sweden. You just go to homegrown status, and that's the automatic option because you are in Sweden. Then you want to create another recruitment focus. Go to any position, get this up to 3 stars, transfer, in further details, you're going to contract status expired and trained in Sweden. Those two scouting reports will set you up for success. You'll immediately be presented with lists of players that can help appease the issues that you're having, and the closer you get to the end of the transfer window, because like you said, I have no money, you'll be able to loan these guys in for free. But the way you solve the I have no money problem is selling players. Ideally, there is a world where you would be able to sustain a team with all of these players and compete in the Swedish league. But as you have discovered, that is not possible. You cannot have a full starting 11 of players in this league with nobody trained in Sweden. You will never ever be able to have a healthy rotation that way, because that means your entire bench would have to be trained in Sweden. So find the bigger wage guys that can command a decent fee, like maybe your goalkeeper Gonzalo Cretaz, and just look to sell them. I mean, you have some room in your payroll budget right now. Ignore the overall balance. You have room in your payroll budget right now. You can sign 2 or 3 players for free. You don't even need to wait till July, dude. I thought your finances were in a worse state than that. He's looking for fast players. No, you need to look for free players, my friend. There's 2 of them, but I would just get rid of this. Sort by world reputation to find guys that have at least played at a decent level and just chuck a trial at every single one of these guys. You can sign them right now. They can play tomorrow. There's no registration for your squad. You don't have to register your team. It would be here if you did, which means you can sign players for free to at least fill out your bench and help you survive the next couple of matches. But there's only 3 matches going up to the next thing. You're looking for free players trained in Sweden, lone players trained in Sweden. Did you have a lot more money than you made, than you said that you had? You actually have the money to be able to buy players as well. Like I said, ignore your balance. Spend the money that the board gives you. This is certainly salvageable, though. You need to put some of the transfer budget into your scouting budget so that your scouts can actually do their work. You're completely out of scouting budget. Go ahead and get Sweden. Get the Swedish scouting package, because that'll make you aware of even more players that are free in Sweden. You need all of this. But one more thing. Create a recruitment focus, same as the others. Transfer, homegrown in Sweden, contract status is expiring in the next year. And if you have this running as well, you'll be able to create a database of players that by the time your season ends in December, you are able to sign a bunch of free players that can hopefully make your team better and save you from this annoying requirement you've run into. But that's just investing in the future. In order to make this possible, you have to get rid of a few of these scouting things, so pick the ones you like the least and just dump them until the scouting team is not at capacity. So you can keep one of them, but add those other 3. And honestly, if I were you, I'd lower this. I'd make this one of these. I would pick just Sweden. I'd make this a top priority. I'd name it like Good Guys or something. Good Guys. And now all of a sudden you are looking for players that maybe you could sign with that little transfer budget that you have that could make your team better and are also homegrown in Sweden. But you need to spend a year and a half signing everybody that's homegrown in Sweden. Got it? But I believe that you can be saved. Hallelujah! If you enjoyed this video, please do subscribe, the fancy button down in the description. And if you want to watch me save more saves because this just wasn't enough for you, here's us doing it to other saves. Saving them, that is. Hopefully. Maybe.